All right. So first topic: can we create a utopian city?
That's interesting. When I read that article, I thought that was interesting. Nate, you started off because it was your topic.
Time out. This
What?
is what this guy, he just pisses me off with this every time, right?
Oh my goodness. Go ahead.
He literally just said, when I read this article, it sparked my interest. But yet you don't want to tell any of the viewers what the hell the article had anything to do with?
Well, I got to let Nate lead it off because it was his topic, and then I'll jump in.
I understand, but somebody needs to describe where it came from, what it was about. Like, before you make your comments on the topic, explain a little bit more around the topic, like, so the viewers understand what we're talking about.
All right, go ahead, Nate.
All right, so let me take over. All right,
okay.
I got this.
Okay.
So let me paint the picture of how this idea came to be. I was bored one night after finishing my assignment, and I was on Yahoo, and I was reading. I was like, okay, investing, buy this, you make $1 million, buy this, change your life. This can affect your genitals. I was like, nah, whatever. So
I learned, this can affect your genitals.
So I learned on the article, and it says the former, I believe, vice president of Walmart wants to build a utopian city. And I was like, vice president, former city, let's go. Utopian, I don't know, we're gonna read it. So it goes like this. The word utopia really means like ideal or perfect. So basically he wants to create the ideal perfect city, and he wants everything to be balanced and all that. So the location that he wants to put this, to have this perfect city where there's nothing wrong, nothing bad, everything flows, is somewhere in the desert. And I was like, okay, well, that's pretty expensive. So he goes on and talks about that. It is possible. All we have to do is bring the resources there. We have a way to combat climate change. Just have a nice, peaceful city. And it goes on and says, well, it's going to cost, if I'm not mistaken, don't quote me on it, about $400 billion.
Yep.
Yeah, to be able to do this whole city. And I'm thinking, damn. I don't know where to spend my life. All right, whatever. So it keeps going. So then I really got intrigued, and I said, okay, well, what is a utopian city? And I found out other articles where there's people who, this book called 2121, and there's different artists and different people who think what a utopian city is. So people are saying it's not just about climate change, it's really how you perceive it. There's different countries, I believe Japan had this idea where all the houses are on trees, and that would help stop deforestation and help maintain nature. Then they talked about LA, where since nobody's really using cars and we're out of gas and natural resources, we're using the cars as the buildings and the infrastructure to be able to keep producing it. And now you just have the expressway for biking and walking and all that. And there's some in Europe, there's this group of islands where obviously like the world just had too much water, and where they have the lanes over it, but there's different islands where the homes are, and then you just travel across between the boat and the highway. And that got me thinking, well, maybe it can be possible. Maybe not now. It's just too much going on. But it's a pretty interesting idea where to make a city where it's peaceful and it's perfect and there's really nothing that can go wrong. And that's how the idea started.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. When I was reading that article, there's actually a few cities that there's actually cities that exist, but the one that you're talking about is more futuristic. When I read it, I was reading about this woman. I think it was in India. She created this little town, utopian town, or city, and then basically everybody, which her concept was, where nobody owns the land, everybody shares, they grow their own crops, everybody pitches in and builds their own little areas, and then they just help each other out through everything. They educate each other's kids, and they built their own little city where you don't owe anything to anybody, everybody's peaceful and all that. When I started reading this one, I was reading into it, I was like, man, this would be great if it really does happen. Where he wants to make it where people would ride bikes, self-automation stuff, so a lot of self-driving cars and all that. Mm-hmm. So what he's trying to build, his vision is very, very futuristic and very energy in mind, right? Where it's using natural sources, solar panels and stuff like that, where it's a self-sufficient city, I think it is, that he's trying to build. And the tower he's trying to build on it's kind of simulates or emulates like some kind of like a Eiffel Tower, but a different concept behind it. He already has an engineer. Like I think this is something he really wants to push forward.
Really?
Yeah, he already did a budget where I think is to start it off, it's gonna host 55,000 people. Obviously they're gonna get it going by building the structures and all that. So you need the people that are gonna work there. So they build houses for those people first, and people that's gonna build the city, and it's gonna be like 20-something million just to get it started and all that. I mean the concept's pretty interesting. Just he's already partnered up with a company to do self-automation cars, and and everything's gonna be self-driven, taxis, buses. Everything's gonna be like right there. I'm like, I can't wait if this becomes a reality. I can't wait to see it. So 2050, I think is the goal.
Also,
I think that's what I read. I think I read that in the article. 2050, and he has a few states in mind. Obviously, around the desert area, in mind. And I mean, if it happens, this would be cool. But if we were building the perfect city in a futuristic city, what would it look like?
That's a good question. What do you think, Checkman? See what your input is.
Never would work. Never can happen.
Why?
Why? Man. Here we go. Okay. Number one.
I want to know why.
Number one. First of all, you have to make everything 100% identical, right? Every home would have to be 100% identical in every single way, in every single aspect.
Really.
Yeah. Let me finish.
Okay.
The reason being is a utopian city. For everybody to be happy, everything has to be even, right? Right. So you can't have a position where you get, because listen, if I'm looking at my neighbor and they got a better house than me, I'm not happy, right? That's human nature. So unless everything's 100% identical, then people are gonna have problems. The reason why a utopian city is literally impossible and can never happen and never work. What did you say the definition of utopia was?
Ideal and perfect.
Okay. Human beings are not ideal and perfect. Human beings are always going to be flawed. So number one, you would either have to close out the entire outside world because there's people that are going to come in and fuck that up who are visiting, right? And number two, human nature breeds contempt, greed, anger, things of that nature. A utopian city means there's no crime, there's no hunger, there's none of that, right? But that's not human nature. So human nature, by our definition, it's physically impossible to have a utopian city because humans measure happiness by sorrow. We measure perfection by unperfection. If we don't have the things that go bad, we can never appreciate the things that will go good, which is why this city will never happen.
Okay, so what if he's measuring the city in a self-sustaining city versus like how everything works well with each other? The city itself will self-sustain, and then add the human, and that will be considered the perfect city. And then not with when you add the humans out of it, obviously they're gonna fuck it up. But I'm saying as far as the city itself in itself is utopia.
Because here's the other thing,
not the
here's
citizens
the other thing,
in it,
right?
Not the residents in it. The city in itself.
Who gets to move into this utopian city?
Well, remember at the beginning, it's gonna be the people who's gonna build it. Just
Okay.
like when they do. Okay, that's gonna be at the beginning.
Okay.
Right. So it's gonna
So
be
we're already
laborers,
discriminating.
and
So we're already
architects.
discriminating.
Well,
This is basically like
then
you know what you're.
how is it discriminating?
Hold on,
Then
let
you
me
get
finish.
then you get the job that does the laboring.
This is no different than when we talk about the end of the world, right? And we talk about the bunkers that are in mountains in Utah. And guess what? Basically, what the government said is whenever the world's going to come to an end, we are going to create a utopian environment inside this bunker because we're going to select the people we want to be able to start the world over. That's what they're doing, right?
Yeah.
Which means people are being left out. That's what the utopian city's trying to do. So you're a farmer, you're worthy. Guess what, Messiah? You can't live there. Guess what? Phoenix, you can't live there. Monster, you can't live there. Why? Because you're not bringing any value to this utopian city. You're not doing anything productive for the city.
What?
So the common person will never be incorporated.
Okay, so the laborers, the city has to be built, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so
those are trade labor. Those are people who have trades. We don't have trades.
I can learn a trade, bro. Trust me, I'll learn a trade to build a city.
I'm just saying, right? So what I'm,
But so wait, so how is that discriminating? First, you're gonna start it off with laborers. They're gonna have their own little community, obviously, right?
So now so now you're segregating people by their profession.
You started off
little
by little, and then you get it builds bigger and bigger.
So you're telling. So what I'm saying though is, I'm a guy who I'm the guy who cleans sewage, right? And I have the same house, and I'm living next door to a guy who's a heart surgeon.
We won't need a heart surgeon at the moment. We got to build the city first.
I'm saying once the city's built, we'll need doctors, right?
Yeah, you need medic.
Yeah.
In case somebody gets hurt.
So if you're a doctor, you're gonna be like, you know what? Fuck being rich. I'm gonna go make the same amount as the guy who cleans my.
No, but I
trash.
don't think the utopian city is this. I think you're translating it.
But that's what makes it
wrong.
a utopian city, because the whole point of it is it's perfect. A perfect city is
the perfect city, like the city in itself, the structures, the infrastructure, not the people in it, because we know people are fucked up.
When we talk about utopian city, there's things that are going to be left out. So in every subsection of every city I've read, they never talked about currency. They never talked about stuff like that. So it's going to obviously,
but
you do have a point, ScheckMonster. You have a point where discrimination is going to be involved. But what you would have to do is change an entire generation's view to say, hey, this is how a city is going to work. We're not really going to rely on monetary value. It's going to be on commodities. And that's how the city works.
That's my point.
Granted,
that's my point. So you're trying to bring people in to change thousands and thousands of years. Like, you got to remember, you're talking about going backwards in time. You want people to revert what we've evolved to. You want them to de-evolve. That's what you're saying. So you're thinking we're going to bring people in, and they're going to be willing to de-evolve in their human evolution.
No, they're just gonna evolve mentally in how they think.
No, they're de-evolving, right? Because
because it's a city being built.
We lived in cities based on bartering and community and those types of things. Where it took a village. Hold on, it took a village to raise a kid, right? We lived in those. We evolved out of that.
Yes, but this utopian city, right? It's the way I took the article is. They leave the human element out of it, right? We're gonna add that later. Let's build the city that we can, for example, what do you call it? Planet conscious. What I mean by that is it's gonna use solar panels. It's gonna use self-driving cars or electric cars. It's gonna use things that you're not gonna that pollutes and damages this planet. And it sustain itself with the 5G and all that shit. So you're gonna have a city that's gonna run off of that. Then add the human element after. So I think what the article was trying to say is this futuristic city is gonna self-sustain. It's gonna be conscious about Earth and all this pollution shit, and that's why they call it a utopian city, because it's gonna pretty much, the city itself is gonna take care of itself without damaging Earth, basically.
Okay.
And you add the human element, yes, we all fucked up. Yes.
That's my point.
We're going to be throwing up, polluting by throwing up.
The only way the city's utopian is as long as you don't have people. Because the second you add people with their waste and their garbage and their overuse of water, they're going to re-damage the environment. But you got to
understand that Gen Z thinks differently, and already differently than what we grew up thinking and behave the way.
Every generation wants to do something different than the generation before them. Big fucking whoop. At the end of the day, they're going to wake up and realize that, you know what, this mentality isn't going to pay my fucking bills. I'm not going to become rich and be able to have nice things in life.
Well, remember, this generation is also helping fight the barriers of racism. It's helping. There's changes.
We're talking about.
No, but I'm just saying there's more acceptance now. So they might be. We don't know what it's going to be like a few years from now.
I know. What I'm trying to say though is, at the end of the day, as these kids get older, the real world